Welcome to another episode of Son of Elijah. My name is Mark the Lion, and I am your host for this episode. We pick up where we stopped even from the other episode. So as we continue, you have to understand clearly that the spirit that needs to be defeated is that spirit that is the principality that has been crowned by the mentality of the people. So what I'm trying to say is this: the crowning process comes from when a principality has found a way to change the mind of the people on ground and get them to think in line with the root of whatever they are trying to sell as the agenda, so that it becomes the instrument of control wherein those individuals are now under their dominion. And that control becomes the mechanism through which that principality is able to communicate his agenda of destruction into the lives of the people who live within the parameters of that land where they're occupying. So you have to understand that the legitimacy of every principality comes from that golden crown. That crown on its head becomes the instrument that it requires and utilizes in order to bring ruinage, damage, and accelerated destruction into the lives of all those who are within that territory. The crown is the mindset of the people. So if the devil is trying to push, or if principalities are trying to push an agenda and the people there do not accept it or are interested in something else, then that principality has failed. And then it can be changed. The devil may have to get rid of that one or send that one away and bring another one, and then tell that one, because now that one has to sit down and look at the characteristics, the culture, the behaviorals and everything, and see how they can enter. So they've always been, as I've explained, they've always been effeminacy, transvestites, homosexuals, and all these people. They've always been there, but many of them prefer to live a quiet life, or people you don't know what they do behind closed doors, literally. And they were everyday people who functioned in different functionalities of this world. And of course, in Los Angeles, being a place where there's a concentrate of influence through movies and visual representation, that's where that spirit was citadeled, since a lot of content in that area was being produced professionally towards that. But many of the main players who were regulating the temperature of Hollywood, literally the ones who were involved or indulged it, did not want any part of it, at least not on the visual aspect of it. They wanted to be seen, respectable in society, and they did not want to expose some of the things they were doing. And some of them were doing boy love and things of that nature. Yeah, they were doing that, but they still wanted those things on hush-hush. So when that spirit came, because that spirit was explained to me everything, he said, when I came and I pushed my agenda, my political agenda, because I was looking at something that was national, and I knew that once we went national, we'll go global. I knew that. And that's why today they are able to exercise their weight. Now, they can't do that with Middle Eastern countries. You can't try that against Saudi Arabia or places like that. You can't. You dare not. It is not even possible. In places like Africa, where they are easily despised or looked down upon as being stupid or inferior or dumb, so that's why they look at you and say, no, you can't. Which culture is that? Culture that doesn't accommodate us or accommodate those with this way of lifestyle. We are going to make sure we strip you of every aid, so that you will be poor and hungry and have nothing to eat, and we will put sanctions if necessary, so that you will learn it the hard way. It's a political, it's a destructive agenda. It's extremely evil, extremely. Thousands of miles your nation is, and you have the right to exercise that level, not influence, manipulation and destruction. That's what this is all about. It's an agenda of the last days. And that spirit was telling me, say, that's what we wanted to do. But we had problems in Los Angeles, because I expected, with them already being on this trajectory, they would just be able to allow our political drive to be able to come in and make it even beneficial for them. But they were not biting, they were not interested. So that spirit said, so I left and I moved up north, and then I went to the heartland of San Francisco. When I moved north, not northeast, but north, just left of Berkeley, he said by the time I got there, I noticed something about people in San Francisco, even though this was not their heritage, because San Francisco was an old town, old city that housed a lot of Asians, had a large community of especially in the valley and some places like that, had a large community of the Chinese, the Asians, and a lot of, so it had a lot of the gold rush. There were a lot of things that had happened in San Francisco. But that spirit told me, but there was something that was unique about San Francisco. They were always interested in embracing and seeing something new. He said, so when I brought it there, they were looking at it and they were saying, okay, let's try it and see, maybe this will be enjoyable. And he said, interestingly enough, it caught on. And then we started putting pressure on the society, because initially transgender and all these things were all classified as mental illness. And since the charter or even the headquarters of the National Association, because I don't know the acronym now, but the association responsible for mental health and psychology and all that, a lot of that was based out of San Francisco. He said, then we went after them and we forced them, we put pressure on them. He said it was by force. He said the same energy we had when I was born, because he said he was birthed in Berkeley. He said that same energy was what we literally used and ran over them and forced them to change their books. He said when they had their national convention and came down, and if there were new findings or new things, they were ratified, they were included in many of those things. He said we started putting pressure that they needed to remove us from the books. We needed to be delisted as a mental illness, or because gender dysphoria is mental illness. So that was the classification in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s. That was it. So he said we went after places where people who were born or who operated or behaved like this, they had therapists who were trying to change them back. He said we started demonizing them. We started going after them. We isolated who those ones were. And we went after their families. We went after their children. We went after everything around them. This was the spirit telling the tale. You see, you have to understand something. When I go into these battles, my harvest is the knowledge and information. That's my harvest. If I don't get that knowledge, then why did I take them on? Did I just go there because I'm not in that community? I don't live there. I don't practice their way of life, and I'm not interested in the things they do. But I need to know how they do it and what they are doing, because that's the knowledge I need to provide for the people of God and those who are being deceived. Because a lot of people are so worldly, even as Christians, and they are accepting and are indulging and allowing and giving leeway to these things, not knowing the actual agenda or the undervalue of the things that have been done to bring about this way of life. They don't know the level of destructive behavior and calculations of the things that are being forged in the very pit of Hades, from which these things are pushing the agenda in our world today. They've been at work. Some of these things have been planned for more than 200-300 years, and they have been working and working and working on it. That's why they chose the schools. That's why they chose those criterion, because they said if we get the children, we'll get them. Think about it. There was a time they said less than 0.001% of people came out to declare they are gay or whatever, or transsexual, or part of that whole group. But I'm hearing now, I'll check again the statistics. Please confirm it in the comment section. Put it there. The statistical revelation of the schools in the Western world of percentile of kids or young people who come out and say they are gay or they are trans or whatever. The numbers are short. Even in some places it's as much as 30%, and in some other places it's as low as 3%. Why? Because this agenda has really skyrocketed, and they use the institutions, they use the school, and they forced it in. So that spirit explained to me why we had problem in Los Angeles, because the OGs there were not interested in that level. They were not interested in the political dimension of it. That's why till today, there are people who live this way of life, but they hate the political aspect of it. They hate the fact that they have to force a baker to bake a cake for a gay wedding when he has no business and is not interested in doing that. They hate it. They hate that whole idea. They say it's wrong. You can't force people, but you have to understand that that movement was born in Berkeley, UC Berkeley, and that's where that spirit came from, and that's where that faucet, whether they like it or not, came from. And since there were individuals who were already into that type of behavior, love is love who you want, love when you like, love and don't love when you don't want to, because love is love as far as you label it as love. They cancel out lust. They cancel out sexual immorality or deviances. They said shame. No, I can't be ashamed. I should be proud of what I do. I should be proud of who I am. I should be proud of what I have become. And as a result of that, they pushed this agenda. They started multiplying it everywhere, and they started pushing it. And this spirit was telling, because the principality in charge of the whole thing on the whole earth, he has gained global prominence. He has achieved global influence. So Satan is applauding him for his great work. And now I came into I defeated him, and when I did defeat him, he has no choice. He has to sing like a canary. He has to tell me what I know. Whatever I want, he has to tell me. He has to, because he's my slave. He has to tell me. And there are reasons for that, which I can't go into the reasons why that battle had to get to that level. That's why when some things are happening, even things that are negative, or even things that are difficult, you can't throw in the towel because you don't know what is the benefit at the end of the day. You may win the battle, you may win out the situation, and the knowledge and information you will gain will become a deliverance to the lives of thousands of millions of people. This younger generation are being molested and raped at an unbelievable rate. And I'm talking about mentally. The strange crowns that are on the heads of this principality are easily being harvested from the younger generation. And with the explosion of media, which these entities are the ones that are controlling media. Because the whole idea of Hollywood and all is media. But you have to understand there's a dimension of entertainment media and information media. And those are not the same thing. Because information media is empowerment, while entertainment media is pleasure, is enjoyment. So they are not the same thing. So this spirit, there's a way they operate. So they have one leg there, another leg there. And then I saw how they were able to make that influence. And with that, they have found ways to still tap into the network of the spirit of Antichrist, making sure people in the seat of power indulge in this type of behavior, so that those ones who are also like them, closeted gay, would open the doors for them to come in and then make the laws of the land. That was why there was someone that was being debated the other day, and people were saying, no, this leader is gay, and another leader said, no, he cannot be gay, and other people were, and it was going rounds on the internet. And I told them, let me tell you the truth, the person you are talking about is gay. And the reason he's gay is very simple: intelligence. I said when the person was in power, the amount of resources and impact he made for the gay community is not achievable except to a practitioner. A sympathizer can't have that level of impact. I repeat, the level of impact that the gay community gained and the traction of their agenda, the way it was accelerated and skyrocketed in a very short while, it is not possible for a leader who sympathizes with the cause to be able to achieve that level and speed of ascendancy. That level of traction can only be achieved by a practitioner. In another one, I'm going to explain to you how the abortion movement, because I also took on that entity and defeated that one, and that one was explosive. In short, that one was even different. I didn't go after them, they came after me. They left Dallas and came to hunt me down in Durban. And then they fought me on my own turf, and I defeated them, and the information I have on that one is loads. And I'm going to try as much as possible to produce something for you on that, because it's also very interesting but very powerful. And it was the same principle. They wanted a global agenda, they wanted this, they wanted that, this was how they wanted to achieve it, and this was who they found. And the woman they used for that abortion agenda, she had to have blood on her hands first, because if she's not a practitioner, if she has not committed abortion before, there is no way she can be chosen by the principality to be the woman that will file the case that was necessary for them to take the abortion matter even to court and possibly win and make abortion allowed nationwide in the United States of America. So the same way this leader we are talking about is gay, there is no other way he could have not been, because a practitioner can only have this level of result. Those who are sympathizers, and you know what sympathizers are? Individuals who feel for the cause of people who say they were born this way, and as a result of that, out of that sympathy, as it were, wants to represent their cause and push for it. No matter how much you are sympathetic, you can't drive it. You have to be a hardcore practitioner. That means that spirit has to come from your spirit, and it can't come from your spirit except your spirit itself is contaminated with that content. And the contamination and the fact that substance or that dark matter is embedded in your spirit, and now you're a practitioner, you are one who believes in it, you are the one who is doing it, and you are the one who is living that lifestyle. Now the force can issue easily from your spirit, and the principalities in the land can control you to do everything you can to change the laws, to manipulate it, to put the judges that will vote and give you what you want. So at the end of the day, you're able to change the laws of the land and make same-sex marriage the laws of the land. And it worked 100%, because that was how how they did it. They did it by that systematic flow, and it came from the spirit of the individual. So the individual may have come one day and say, no, I'm not. Even when they mention, say, no, I'm not of that persuasion. I don't even believe that same-sex marriage should be the law of the land. Not only does he believe he's going to be the instrument that will make it happen, but for him to make it happen, he has to get to that place where he's in charge of the power first. Then the principalities that helped to make sure he get there will now kick in and say, and they can control you easy because you're a practitioner. And because you're a practitioner, that spirit lives in you. And since that spirit lives in you, you will comply perfectly with what you are commanded to do. And you have no choice. And that's why it's control. Every individual in that land are the individuals that crown the principalities. The thought of the people is the crown that is on their head. The gold is the nature of that thought pattern. And that's why those spirits show it off. They are adorned with it. They celebrate that crown. And that crown can never fall off their head. No matter how it's placed, it sits nicely. The reason is because the crown itself, you have to understand the dynamics of the principle of a crown. A crown sits on what? The edges of the head. The head is where the brain is. The mind, that's the citadel of the mind, the way you think. The way you think. That's why when they put a crown on a king and they crown him, what they are saying is that the way you think is now the way the people of this whole land must think. Because you are a British king of the United Kingdom, every citizen of the United Kingdom must not only submit to the dominion of this ruling family for which you are king. The way you think, your mannerisms, your accent, your courteous behavior, your courtside functionality, all that is your thought process, and those thoughts must go down and become the norm in the lives of the citizenry and even to the colonies that are under the leadership of the monarchy. And that is the principle that regulates everything you are seeing in the kingdom. So when the Bible speaks and Jesus says he will give you a crown, he's telling you that he will make your mind to be like him, and you will be able to rule and reign under the strength and the influence of his dominion, and then you can function in the strength of his capacity, and you are able to make limitless impact based on the functionality of his capacity. And then you are able to put it on overdrive and bring things to a place of flourishing, a place of establishment, a place of explosion, a place of impact that cannot be stopped or hindered, simply because you understand the principles that are powering the mindset of the people, because you are the king. And the king has been crowned because of the people, because he was crowned regarding a throne. The throne is the root of it, but the height of it is the crown. And the crown represents the highest head amongst the citizenry. So his head represents the number one citizen for every other person. So the way he thinks becomes the norm for everyone under him. Remember, he was crowned by the people. Even the kingmakers and the lawmakers, everyone has agreed that. And that's why when he's crowned, they say, long live the king, long live the queen, because everyone is giving him the adoration, the sovereign one, the highest leading one, the one whose mindset and whose dominion and thoughts become the normality in the land. So that is how principalities function. That's why that principality was telling me the functionality of what he wanted to do with his agenda and how he wanted to make it nationwide and ultimately globally, and needed individuals such as this. So when they were able to get their own people into that political inclination, they gain traction. That's why another guy who came and replaced him and now wants to come back again is enemy number one. The reason is because he's a dismantler of those installations, he's a dismantler of those thought processes, and the worst part about him is that he behaves like a king. And that's why they keep calling him a dictator. Why do they call him a dictator? Because a dictator operates like a king. Most kings are dictators. And a king is more special than a president. You say, but we are no more in the monarchy era where monarchs are ruling. You don't understand. I'm talking about a mindset. When someone thinks like a king, he will talk to the people and get them to think like kings. But if you are someone that has been manipulating and using and taking advantage of the people by taking advantage of their limited scope of of thinking, where they think like paupers, where they think like victims, when they think like as if everybody is a racist against them and they are being suppressed, and there are people who are supremate over them based out of race and all these things. So that mentality itself causes those individuals to be subservient, because if you think you're a victim, then you're a victim. So when someone comes into the picture and said, no, you are not a victim, there is no one against you, you are where you are because of your poor choices, change what you do, that elevates people, and that elevation breaks people away from the strength of the influence of that controlling, manipulative spirit. And that's why they hated that individual and hate him, and they have vowed that they will do everything necessary to intercept the possibility of his return back to a place of presidency. Why? Simply because of his mentality. He thinks like a king. That's the problem, and that's what they don't understand. He has a mindset that is kingly in his own personality, irrespective of the harshness of whatever. And that thinking is what they have properly identified and labeled as dictatorship. And they are now trying to use that to blackmail him emotionally, so that a lot of people will look and say no. So now, without even me going too much into that, that is the dynamics of it. That is the understanding of it. That is the principle that powers it. That's why the spirit that is functioning from that part of the world is doing everything he can to make sure this thing enters every single place. The schools, the universities is there. It's in the schools, it's in the universities, it's in junior college, it's in primary school, and right now it's in kindergarten. Because they want to make sure they convert and change the norms of what your children are, the way they think, their behavior, what is their sexuality. What we have taken for granted for years is now what is now being elected, is now what is now being debated, is now what is now being chosen. And it was all done by that principality that I encountered when I was in California. And now that it had moved to San Francisco, he told me, said the people in San Francisco adopted him excellently, and then he exploded. And with that, he was able to penetrate all the institutions. Today, it is controlling schools, controlling universities, controlling all places of learnership, controlling institutions, because the people who are out of those schools are now working in companies, you see. So they are controlling companies, and he keeps going on and on. So that's why it's a global scale. So that global impact is different from just the local impact. That global impact cannot be compared to a local impact. So what has become national is now being pushed on a global scale. And that's why the agenda is stretching from Australia all the way to Peru, all the way to Japan, all the way to the tip end of Africa, South Africa, indulging in it. But that spirit is in South Africa, but did not come from South Africa. So they are micromanaging it from somewhere else, but it has gained ascendancy. And they are penetrating at an alarming rate. And the strength of what they did was a political angle to that which they are pushing. So these are the forces that are at work. This is the understanding of how they do it, and that's why you see what is happening on the earth today. These things are deep and wide. I don't have enough time to be able to go into every single thing that spirit told me, but it was really wide and deep. But based on some of the questions you've been asking, I said, let me bring a little bit of that there. Let's just leave it out there. My name is Mark the Lion, and I've been your host for this episode of Son of Elijah. I hope you're able to get something. I hope you were able to gain some traction in this area. I will see you in the next episode. Please do check up on the lineup, because this series, I may produce up to 10 or 15 episodes just on this series alone, on battling and taking on these entities, so that everyone can understand and be edified. It can be done in one day, but you see, knowledge is in layers and information is in cadres. And as we continue, eventually we'll get there. Thank you for watching. Please like our page. Please subscribe. Please share it with others. Let everyone know about it. Put it out there. Let this channel blow. Let Son of Elijah be made manifest, because it's a spirit. The spirit of Son of Elijah is the spirit that God placed on the earth, even at this time, for every one of us to be a part of it, so that we become that army that will resist the forces of wickedness and dismantle and dethrone these entities and these forces of darkness that are micromanaging the earth and poisoning it with all their destructive agenda that is being accelerated at a pace that is a neck-breaking speed. And we can stop it in the name of Jesus. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.